Since 2003, this is the Sports Source, East Tennessee's #1 sports talk show.
Presented by Pipe Wrench, Junk Be Gone, and the Garza Law Firm.
With your host, John Pennington. The Sports Source starts now.
Good Sunday morning. Welcome into the Paper Be Gone studios for the Sports Source. We have a packed show, but it's only 60 minutes today. ABC is running the opening ceremonies of the Special Olympics starting at noon. So we've got to take everything and jam it into an hour. And we've got football, basketball, baseball, obviously, recruiting, SEC meetings, stadium improvements. Let's go ahead and start. First segment of this show brought to you by the folks at the Garza Law Firm. So many attorneys on television right now, but not all of them are actually from East Tennessee. Marcos Garza and the Garza Law Firm, they are neighbors, part of the community who give back to the community. If you need an attorney, visit garzalaw.com to chat with the best local attorneys you're ever going to find. garzalaw.com. Okay, let's welcome in the first wave of panelists. We've got 3 more guys waiting in the ring. For a 60-minute show, we've got 7 guys here today to cover 15 topics, so let's hurry up. Vince Ferrara right here from 99.1 The Sports Animal. Josh Ward, 99.1 The Sports Animal right there. Longtime sports writer and longtime member of this panel, going back to its first year, 20 years ago, Chuck Cavaleris. Okay, Vince, let's start. We'll talk about last night's game. I'll give you a short little window to talk about Campbell, and I'll steal this from Josh. The Vols got over the hump. Complete theft from Josh.
Yeah, dad joke.
Happy to have the lob on that one. You got it.
I got a dad joke from Josh.
Well, obviously, it was wild. It was incredible. There's so much drama. Tennessee down early, a lot of stress, kind of quiet at times in the building. Not what you expect from the #1 overall seed, but then rallied back, 7 unanswered for Tennessee. Campbell gets to within a run twice, and then Tennessee was able to separate in the 9th inning, 4 home runs. Kirby Connell came in and really saved the day for Tennessee after Chase Dolander didn't get out of the 3rd inning with 70 pitches. Wasn't his shortest outing we've seen. I don't think it's anything to be worried about moving forward, but man, Tennessee with their depth, they always seem to have answers. If something doesn't go exactly as planned or as well as we're used to seeing, whether it's depth of pitching, whether it's offense late and kind of wearing teams down, they always seem to find a way over 9 innings, a full ball game, to overcome and win.
On ESPN last night, their announcer kept talking about 27 outs. You have to get through all 27 outs. We talked about that last week, 2 weeks ago, that I think that gets in the other team's head, too. It's like we've got them shut down here, but the fuse is lit, it's coming.
Right.
And you saw that last night. I want to get into the Evan Russell situation, but first of all, kudos. I thought it was one of the coolest things all year. The Vol fan base has really been supportive of this baseball team, to the fact that you're building a new stadium. Mm-hmm. But the support shown to Charlie Taylor the other night was really cool. Yeah. That was outstanding. And then they supported Evan Russell when he got in late last night. Let's talk about his situation. His father said on Twitter that he was dealing with anxiety, stress, and pressure. Mm-hmm. The team simply said at the time he was sick. How big of a concern? I mean, that's if he's not back and all the way back. That's the one spot on the team where you don't have any depth, or a ton of depth, I should say.
Yeah, really. We've only seen 3 catchers for Tennessee. The other one is Jared Dickey, but Jared Dickey is not 100% right now. He will pinch hit as he's coming back from a leg injury, but he's not ready to catch. It doesn't seem like, or not ready just yet. So it's Charlie Taylor until Evan Russell's ready to go. He did pinch hit, got a hit last night, came into the game, and then did get an at bat. So. Yes, long term, you're going to need Evan Russell for this team in so many key situations with his experience. But it's just hard to say where Evan is from a mental and physical standpoint, and I think they're going to need him at some point.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to speculate on something like that when you're dealing with, if you're talking about is it an ankle injury or not. That's one thing.
Right.
But there's the deal. So, we just have to kind of take it at the word that it's stress, anxiety, and pressure and move from there. Let's take a look at the Vol bracket outlook from here on. Tennessee, Georgia Tech and Campbell playing the losers game today. One of those will be eliminated. The winner plays at 7 o'clock against Tennessee. If Tennessee wins tonight, they move on. If they don't, then they'll play Monday. Down in Statesboro, this is the place, this is the regional that's kicking them to Tennessee next. Texas Tech and Georgia Southern. Georgia Southern's the host. They'll be in the elimination game. They'll play the winner. Notre Dame has 0 losses in this thing. So it looks like, I mean, you could either get Texas Tech or Georgia Southern still, but let's play the law of averages here. Looks like it's going to be Notre Dame coming to Tennessee. Vince, if I told you before that regional through the first pitch, would you have said, where would you have ranked Notre Dame in terms of who you wanted coming to town? First, second, third, fourth?
Well, who I want on a cool factor, Notre Dame. Who's the most difficult? Notre Dame. So it depends on how you want to look at it. I thought that was a really loaded, difficult regional for Georgia Southern, their first time ever hosting. Tennessee beat them in the first weekend. But, man, Notre Dame, you could argue, should have been a host. And then Texas Tech has a ton of experience getting to the College World Series a bunch of times. So I expected Notre Dame to come out of that. We'll see how it plays out. But I think it'd be awesome for Notre Dame and Tennessee to play in any sport. I think is really cool. I think that's what you're going to see next weekend.
Okay, very good. As I said, with a 60-minute show, there's only so much we can get into. So I'm going to condense what would have been 4 segments of discussion into 60 seconds of my opinions, and then we'll let these guys weigh in on those opinions. Let's go ahead and put up my thoughts on this Evan Russell thing. One, if it's really anxiety, stress, and pressure, then good for Evan Russell for taking care of his health. Stress is an absolute killer. You talk to any doctor, they'll tell you that. So good for him if he's taking care of the mental issues first. Second of all, the buck stops with ESPN on this whole deal. The fact that the story came out, I know everybody's peppering ESPN and wanting them sued and everything else. The buck stops with them. They're the ones who hired Troy Ekland. But it's Ekland, in my view, who really screwed up. And here's the deal. They hired an ex-player to analyze games. They didn't hire him to make reports on news based on Twitter in some other regional.
Right.
You know, tell us if it's a slider or a curve. You know that a producer fell out of the truck when he said that on the air. So that's not like Bristol management wrote that and handed it to Scott Van Pelt. I think it's more the ex-Arkansas player. That said, he probably never had a journalism class in his life. He's calling ball games. I don't know, maybe he does. But he cannot run with accusations that he saw from Twitter. It's one thing to run with something. We've all run with stuff from Twitter. All over the country, it's what happens. A serious accusation like that, you can't touch that. Whether you've been to a journalism school or not, you can't do it. And then last, I didn't think Tennessee help matters. If they'd simply said he's sick before the game instead of waiting 3 hours after, there's no speculation. During that game, Vince, I know you were getting texts from people in the booth. What's up? What's going on? Is it this? Is it that? I'm seeing it. It's all over Twitter. By saying he's out, and we'll discuss it later, you kind of invite some speculation. So I think Tennessee kind of left the door open. Somebody stumbled and fell through it, and that person happened to work for ESPN. My blame for most of it goes to Ekland. Chuck, I'll let you go next, and then Josh. Your thoughts on
Well, John,
what I
you
just
mentioned journalism class. I mean, there's a thing called two-source confirmation, right? And for this Mr. Ekland to go with something like that just off Twitter, he should have to do 40 hours of community service for a youth sports league, and then he should have to take a journalism class. Two-source confirmation, more than just
they
a
didn't
tweet.
hire him as a reporter.
Well, I know, but
problem.
look what he stirred up with one comment. I mean, and how far that went. And you're exactly right. To me, this was like a one-paragraph statement. I mean, Evan Russell contacted Tony Vitello the morning of the game, said, I'm not feeling well. Tennessee said he's just going to be unavailable. Just make a one-paragraph statement.
And we'll discuss it after.
Okay, exactly. No, I mean, yeah.
Just say he's sick. If you can say, you know they didn't come up with that during the game. It's like, oh my gosh, we can't figure it out. And then during the game, hey, wait, let's just say he's sick. You could have said it before and put a lot of this stuff down. Josh, your take on this?
Yeah, I would have, before the game, said that he's out due to illness. Day-to-day status tomorrow unknown, could be back, could not. Tony Vitello will comment after, and then he could add any kind of context they want to. But I would have made sure to put an illness label to it before the game to at least slow down speculation. It's still going to happen. It's Twitter. But
Not like it did, though.
Yeah, but slow it down where you don't just have 3 hours of anything goes everywhere on the internet and on text threads and everything else. So I would have done that before the game, tried to quiet down any kind of conversation, because my guess is at this point, Tennessee is ready to move on from the story.
And super quick, good on Tennessee to defend Evan Russell.
Yes.
Be clear on it. Tell ESPN they needed to apologize. There was the apology.
They did.
It was weak. 20 seconds looked like a prepared statement from Ekland, and he called that Stillwater Regional yesterday. I don't know if it's because they couldn't find anyone else or if that they're not going to do anything, but he was still there and had a very short apology.
I heard the apology. It was very much a statement. They did
Right.
And he said, I know Tony Vitello, and I hope he knows that. I think he knows that I wouldn't do this on purpose, et cetera, et cetera. The fact that he's a former Arkansas player and that's now your big rival,
Yes.
that didn't add.
On purpose doesn't matter.
That
Sorry.
didn't look
I will say that if I were ESPN, considering he had run with the tweet, I would want it to be as prepared as possible. I don't want him flying off the cuff with his
Yes,
thoughts
exactly. I have
because
no
it could have
problem.
gone poorly.
Yeah, I have no problem with a prepared statement.
Yeah.
In that case, everything would have been prepared.
Yeah.
All right, let me tell you what we got coming up today. As you just saw, we just went through the baseball news. Vols play again at 7 o'clock tonight. We're going to talk about football outlook next, SEC meetings news, recruiting update, big recruiting update, basketball rankings for Tennessee and a roster update, plus the latest on stadiums. We got all kinds of images to show you. Come on back on the Sports Source, folks. We got a packed show.